Hello, Mahesh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to join us today. We're looking forward to hearing about your story. So let's just jump right in. Um, before
Sure.
before we hit record, we were kind of talking about starting your own company and the dream and the nightmare that can be. So tell me a little bit about Magic Pixel and why you decided to start your own business.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm from this technology background for last 20 years, been solving problems as an engineer, architect, and then leading organizations in my past life. Out of which I always looked at industry trends, what kind of problems are there, how we can solve, because that's what engineers do. So in the past 8 years, I predominantly worked in digital marketing and advertisement technology areas, and closely following how the industry is shaping up, how the social media is changing, how people buy stuff, how marketing happens. And then came European Union bringing down their hammer on GDPR compliance, security, customer data and privacy, CCPA, and a lot of the laws got changed and enforced, and it started a new problem for marketers and the technology providers to address that in a way that is more meaningful and also giving a lot of control back to the customers of their brands. So me coming from that world, always looking for problem areas to solve, and that's the genesis of why Magic Pixel came to existence, which is where we provide a SaaS-based platform to collect first-party data for CMOs and CDOs, that is marketing and digital organizations,
Right?
and accurately understand visitors' behavior, have a complete 360-degree view of the customers and prospects that are coming to their site, provide them timely and relevant experiences, at the same time give all the data points to measure their KPIs efficiently.
Okay. Okay. And how long has Magic Pixel been around?
So we started out in 2019
Okay.
as a small product development adventure. And in 2020, we sold it to one of our first customers. And 2021, we spun it out into a separate entity, what is now called Magic Pixel,
Okay.
and also a Delaware corporation. So it would be a lot more product focused and only supporting the licensing and product capabilities to all our brands without diluting our focus onto other activities like services.
Got it. Okay. And for our listeners that aren't overly familiar with this concept of first-party data, what does that really mean?
So we all have some or one or the other form of social media platforms. Like let's talk about Facebook to
Okay.
be just common, because Facebook has 1/3 of the world population on their platforms, right? So you go to Facebook and you see an advertisement that is coming through that would be more or less relevant to who you are, could relate to you, what you need, and things of that nature. So when you click on or engage with that advertisement, click through, it will might take you to a website of that brand that you're trying to look and understand more about that product. And then eventually end up on that brand and buy that product. So what happened here is the marketer of that brand built a page or a website that curated for specifically a targeted audience like you, and said, like, I want to identify people like Chris and advertise them about my product in Facebook as a channel. So what used to happen here, all these advertisement companies or the providers made it simple enough for marketers to not go back to our development team every time they want to do some promotion. So they used to simplify that one, they said, like, drop a piece of code on your web page and we'll take it from there.
Mhm.
So what it meant was Facebook was dropping a piece of code, and that used to create an identity or a fingerprinting of a visitor who comes to their site by the form of a third-party cookie.
Okay.
Within that, they used to store some data points. So what used to happen was all this data collected by Facebook through their piece of code was meant to be for Facebook to understand users, visitor behavior, whatnot, and collect all those data points so that they can enhance their advertisement platforms by knowing more about you.
Okay.
So that is called a third-party data collection, not by your own brand, but somebody else doing on your behalf.
Oh, okay.
So that entire paradigm shifted now to first-party data collection, which is basically you as a brand. Like, let's say I'm a Mahesh.com, I'm selling some t-shirts. So I should be completely responsible to collect the information about the visitors that come to your site with your consent and use that data effectively to market, and only share some data points that are only required to do the marketing
Okay.
on Facebook, not necessarily sending everything that you know about your customer.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is called the first party data collection, that you as a brand collecting data, and you decide based off of the user consent or not, whether to share that information to Facebook or not.
Got it.
So this is the concept that is changed from the third party data collection to the first party data collection.
Okay. Thank you for that. And is that why now when we go to a brand's website, we see the accept all or reject all cookies? I mean, that's everywhere now, way more than it used to be. Is that first party, third party data difference?
So that is yes, that is you are on the right track there. What happens there is you are asking explicitly a consent by the visitor, for the visitor, saying, hey, we are going to collect certain data points about you and your visit so that we can effectively do advertisement properly. We can understand the user behavior or whatever may be the case. So you can provide a granular control to the users, saying, hey, only give permission to only necessary cookies or necessary data points to collect so that your website can perform. Or you can say, I'm going to give permission to everything because I don't really care, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there can be anywhere in between. You can say, you can use my data to collect and analyze the site behavior, all those things, which is performance, but not to the marketing or targeting, meaning that you don't send this data to Facebook or Google or anywhere else. So you have to take that consent and then do all the magic internally on your website or in your own server side and ecosystem, and then decide what to do with the data.
Okay. And that's
So,
where Magic
right.
Pixel comes in.
That's where Magic Pixel comes in. What you see on the screen as a banner is a consent platform. Magic Pixel is not a consent platform, but it enforces the consent given or lack thereof based off of user preference to how you collect data or not collect data. And if you're collecting, how do you send and whom to send it?
Got it. Thank you for that.
Yep.
So you spent a lot of time in the corporate world, as you said, on the, in the corporate world, in this digital marketing space with some very large organizations. Why did you decide to start your own business? What was that moment when you're like, maybe I should do this on my own?
Yeah, that's a very great question. I would say, like, I never started out in my career saying like, hey, one day I'm going to go and start a business on my own.
Okay.
Because my dad and my mom never went on business ventures. So I don't come from that kind of background. It's a totally a new muscle to grow and build. So it took me a while, but I always was a person who was curious to solve problems. So if the problem is big enough and people are willing to pay for it, then why not convert and monetize that?
Okay.
So that's the idea that when I came to US, it started a thought in my mind saying like, if that's how the companies have started, that's how this country was built, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives opportunity to everyone without any background, any judgment, saying anybody who can dream, they can do it.
Okay.
So that was the uh, turning point where I said like, this problem is big enough so that I can go and help a lot of people, a lot of marketers who are in this same boat. And when I initially started talking about this one, Google didn't say this is a problem, or Microsoft didn't say this is a problem, so this might not be a problem. So it was a little tough for me to go and tell people. It took me 6 years, and still a lot of people are thinking about it, hey, whether I needed this one or not. But last 2 years, it has changed tremendously. So many companies started building some form of the solution that I have thought through in 6 years ago, which gives a validation that this is a problem big enough that a lot of people are interested in investing millions of dollars in building solutions.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of gave me a chance and also pause to say like, okay, this product has some wheels, legs to go,
Mm-hmm.
and let's go and try to venture it. Because if you don't trust in yourself, nobody else will trust on you, right? So
That's right.
that's the best way to go about, and that's what led me to believe. And I also talked to a lot of my mentors, my leaders that I always followed in my career. They said like, follow your dream, Mahesh, you can do it. So that kind of gave me some confidence and say like, yeah, I think I'm on the right track. Let's go venture in and experience this right. Because I've been working for 20 years. If I don't start this one, I might be working for another 10 years, right? So might as well bet on me and go and do this.
Yeah, I love it. That entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
And it's interesting. You said something that I wanted to highlight. You said that now ultimately you have more competition in the marketplace, which
Mm-hmm.
some people would think, well, that's not a good thing. But in this case, you needed that competition to validate your solution and prove that there's a problem, which I think that's interesting. So, how has the
Yes.
marketplace changed for you?
So in 2021 and beginning of 2022, Google came out and said like, hey, we can provide a server-side tagging platform for you to host yourself. And so that you can do the first-party data collection on your own and try to send data to other places where you used to do it from the browser in the past. So that kind of validated what I've been telling since 2019, saying you need this solution. So a lot of people who used Google's Tag Manager, which is a free version, because Google makes a lot of money on other platforms, they want to give this as a free, as an enablement to use their products. So 90% of the market is controlled or using Google Tag Manager. So when Google says it, people listen to that and they say like, oh, yep, this makes sense. So my job to educate people has now disappeared. Now I have to tell how this problem can be solved and how Magic Pixel is different than what you have been seeing in other products and places.
Got
So
it.
the entire argument and the justification changes, and also it more turns out to be like a recognized problem is there. Now let's find out the best tool that can solve it.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So your role, one of your roles, kind of like you just said, evolved from education to how can we now solve this problem? The market recognizes the problem. So I'm curious, what's the biggest obstacle that you and the business are currently facing?
So biggest obstacle is how to solve it.
Okay.
There could be different ways you can solve it, and different school of thoughts about how you collect data, right? What I am trying to do is like focus on a problem that is bigger but not underappreciated, meaning your tools and your vision can only go as far if you trust the data that you have collected. So it so happens that companies invest so much more dollars on the art of possibility, like solving the problems, but they tend to overlook how complex it can be to implement processes and technologies to collect and most reliable and resilient data out of your brand digital ecosystem that is actionable in a real time or near real time. What happens is websites and mobile applications are getting built and changes happen almost every day. And there is a huge group of organizations, IT teams that are building this and checking web pages left, right, and center. So collecting piece of information that is non-functional to the common visitor of the site is often overlooked because there will be a small team that will be responsible to collect this data and make it available and make sure this data is reliable day in, day out. So only when you have the data collected, that if you trust that with 100% confidence, then all the multi-million dollars of investment that you do on data collection and activation, whether it is AI, whether you have machine learning, whether you want to do a real-time personalization on your website based on who the visitor is, or real-time marketing optimization that you want to do, and you want to understand how your marketing is performing, how ad dollars are bringing revenue. All those things come down to or boil down to common fact that is your data telling what you need to know? Is the data is reliable? So
Right.
that is where my product is pure focus on. And implementation aspect is where we need to understand and help businesses saying, let's first solve the data collection aspect of it. Now with the additional restriction about how the consented data collection, then you can go solve any problem that you have on the other side.
Gotcha.
So that's where the biggest obstacle, I should say, with respect to educating companies and leaders in the companies to say that you need to take a pause and make sure that data collection, the foundational element, is accurate and right. Then you can build and invest any number of resources to go and do art of possibility, which is Gen AI now, or
Right.
AI and machine learning, all those things.
Okay, great. So let's switch gears a little bit. When you decided to start your own business, what's the one thing you wish someone would have told you about becoming an entrepreneur, owning a business? I mean, you understood, it sounds like, the technical side, and you understood the challenges in the market. And we're still trying to, kind of get product market fit from a customer perspective in some capacity. But what do you wish someone would have told you about actually owning and running a business?
So solving a lot of problems as an hobby, as an interest is one thing, because 99% of the people always good at solving problems. But when you want to start a business, that problem has to be identified as a big enough problem that you can make money out of it.
Okay.
So that is where a lot of understanding has to happen. Coming from an technology side and not necessarily a marketing and selling side, you tend to underappreciate how big of a work and a job it is for you to sell things.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about, hey, here is something, buy it, buy it, buy it. It's about showcasing the problem that they have and quantifying how big of a problem it is and what solve you can provide. And then automatically they will decide, okay, this is a value proposition that I get out of this investment. And it's become easy for you to sell that at that point.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I didn't have, saying how do you monetize this? What is that monetization is all about, right? So
Yeah.
it took a lot of work for me to understand, because I didn't go to school in a conventional business schools, right? I came from engineering background. So all of those knowledge and tidbits were all learned and read through and learned and all those things. So if I have to tell anybody who is going in this journey, understand the areas where you lack and find a partner, if you can, who can complement you, right? Because there's not enough time to learn everything by yourself.
Right.
And that way you can be good at what you're good at, but also keep learning things. Not
Yeah.
necessarily saying it's your area or my area. You complement each other, but at the same time, you learn how it happens and works. That way, you can grow faster. You can learn from other people's experience, and you can have a lot more success in your journeys.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And do you have partners in the business currently?
I am the right now the partner or the founder.
Okay.
I do have some of the founding members who are complementary to what I bring in.
Mhm.
So that's why we were able to successfully build this and make it a revenue generating entity in a fully bootstrapped manner. We
Yeah.
haven't seek any outside funding for a reason, and we haven't seen that need up until now. And this year it's changing because we are entering into the growth mode where we want to grow faster, and which is where we need to get into that VC funding cycle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So before we unpack that a little bit, you wear the CEO hat. Do you
Mm-hmm.
also wear the chief sales officer hat? I mean, are you the chief salesperson for the firm?
No, I have an person heading the sales aspect of it,
Okay.
and we are spread in across multiple geographic.
Hmm.
Mainly in Asia, we are getting a lot of traction, mainly India and Middle East, apart from US and North America. And Europe, we get a lot of inquiries.
Hmm.
We don't really have a foot presence in Europe, but we are trying to provide them all the services and at least consulting from here and in India. I have offices in India and here in US Orland Park. And a lot of my US people are working remote, but
Okay.
we can collaborate well enough. And in India and also in Middle East, we have offices.
Awesome. Awesome. So global
Yes,
footprint from concept to startup to global footprint. That's awesome.
yes, yes.
So you mentioned uh, VC money, possibly out in the market or going out into the market looking for growth capital.
Mhm.
Out of curiosity, is that how would you use an injection of capital to grow the business?
So all the traffic that we receive to our sites, our content, and all the outbound marketing so far we have done is organic and automated using freely available marketing automation platforms and tools and things of that nature. And I haven't spent a single dollar on the advertisement money yet. So as I coming from supporting all the marketing organizations, it's no secret that you cannot grow rapidly without spending advertisement dollars,
Yeah.
unless you are Elon Musk, who
Right.
ironically never spent a dollar, and I haven't seen a Tesla ad anywhere, but he built a multi-billion dollar empire,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So unless you're like that, you need to spend efficiently and also have a strategy on how you build your marketing cycle or engine that will funnel that MQLs into SQLs, which they call in the marketing lingo, where the sales team can pick it up and convert those leads into accounts,
Okay.
right? So that's the process where I am in, and we have grouped them in different. When we have a self growth, we invest and we grow, and then there is a partner ecosystem based growth, because in the digital marketing advertisement ecosystem, 90% of the media and media buying and is all managed by agencies for all the brands.
Mm-hmm.
So media agencies play an important role in this domain. So we have been going out and building these partnership agreements and relationships. And so far we have around 10 of those across India and Middle East and US. And we keep growing there. And we want to attribute at least 40% of our revenue growth through those partner ecosystem. And remaining 60% is where I have to invest in resources, whether it is human resources for marketing and sales, or in the platform, and also buying the media and paying by paid media advertisements.
I see.
So all these things will take a lot of resources, and that's where my majority of fund that I'm seeking will go into.
Okay.
But then I can't stop on my product growth, and especially the roadmap of building the capabilities, because my foundationally, my goal or vision for this product is provide an platform, a single purpose-built platform where you can collect data ethically and activate in real time, so that you can get maximum buck out of one infrastructure. In order to build that one, you need to continuously invest on growing and offering the new capabilities.
Yeah.
So those are the two major areas that I need to apply the funding.
Okay.
And then always customer support and customer success is always critical, because retaining customers is the biggest thing than acquiring, right?
Once you get them, you want to keep them.
Right. So that's the third wheel in this entire vehicle, where the funding and resources will be allocated.
Okay. No, that's great. That's great. And with your corporate background, you have inside knowledge as to how all of that works, right? Working in digital marketing for big corporations, like you know how to do it. You just probably need the resources to go get it done, right?
Yes, yes. It's always says like, oh, it's easy. I can do it in 10 minutes, but you will run out of those 10 minutes pretty quickly. So you need people to come in and do it. And also, like, I admit myself, like, I'm not a sales guy to begin with, right? It's not in my second nature kind of deal. So when you lack those kind of skills, you always find those things and complement. And one of those things is how to be marketing efficiently, even though I understand details to a level, but you have to live through that in order to really, really grow that. So I need to understand that. Yep.
Awesome. You mentioned earlier in the conversation that you had some leaders and mentors that encouraged you. They said, Mahesh, you can do this. Go chase your dream, get it done. I'm curious if you could put your finger on maybe the best leader or mentor that you've had in your professional career, and tell us why are they so good? What did they really do for you?
So one of the important things that I learned is leaders are very good in rallying up their team to believe in them and influence them to drive those visions. And you can't do all by yourself. You need to be a very excellent influencer, storyteller, and also a leader to show that, hey, this is where I want to go. In order to reach there, I need all your help and focus. And it's going to be a fun ride. So it is easier said than done to do those kind of things in a very effective way. And that is where I see that a lot of leaders, I came from telecom background, and Mike Sievert is CEO of T-Mobile, and the way he articulates and narrates the story and rallies the people and educate them at the same time why we are doing it is an amazing art that he has built and developed. He talks totally differently when he is talking in an all-employee meeting versus when he talks to a stockholder. Or I know when he goes to Kramer's Mad Money, he talks in a different way. When he comes to talk to employees, he will be totally different mood. And
Interesting.
how he switches gears and how he understands the room and who the audience is very important. And that's how a leader would grow the business and encourage employees to take the ownership of what he has a vision to drive and deliver. It is what drives to be an great leaders and effective leaders. And I have had opportunity and was lucky to get some of the leaders in our organization, basically in T-Mobile and back in the sprint days, who are open enough to have time for me as mentors and give me even 30 minutes of their time is valuable for us when they are running an organization of 10,000 people, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I had a few of those in my journey. Some of them were C-level leaders, and a lot of them were VPs. And I still have a very good relation with them and interact with them. And they respond when I text them or Slack them or reach out to them. So it's a very fortunate environment and experience for me to be in corporate world and listen to them and ask one-on-one questions saying, hey, how do you solve this? And that played an important role. And I don't take that experience lightly because they imparted their wisdom and knowledge on how to deal with problems and how to grow things. And that is what I think is helping me in what I'm trying to build here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I was wondering what you would say if I asked the question of, at the beginning of your career, if you had to choose into starting your own business or going into the corporate world, knowing what you know, the journey that you've had, would you choose corporate world and then start your own business, or would you have gone directly to start your own business?
If I go and do my own business, you have to be incredibly lucky to hit the nail on the head, right?
Mhm.
Very few people can do that one. And for every one person who became successful in doing that, there are millions of people who failed on it, right?
Yeah.
Growing a business is an art and also a knowledge and skill that you will have to gain out of some amount of experience, because you need a firm footing on one thing. Then you can build things around it, right, to complement. But if you're new to everything, then no matter how smart you are, building a company, you need to have a village. And that's how the companies are built. Even if you take an example of how these unicorns were born, right? Facebook or Google or anything, they brought in professionals to come and run those companies. They didn't do it by themselves all along, or they were incredibly smart to learn those things on the fly, right?
Yeah.
So either you have to be super uber genius and figuring out things and identifying the right and wrong and successful things, versus building solutions, because that's another thing, right? Like not every founder needs to be from Harvard or MIT or Stanford.
Right.
So other people can learn from their experiences, and you have a lot more success when you drive out of experience than right out of college or high school trying to build something.
Yeah.
Right. So there is no replacement for experience. And the experience is not just how many years you spent in a company or what it is, but how much you learned on a daily basis as you work through that one, and how did you connected the dots, like, hey, the work I'm doing, how does it drive value to the company? If you tie to those two things, then you are learning a lot of those nuanced things that you would not otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, I would say you have to have some kind of work experience, because you won't know what you're building and who's going to use it
Yeah.
unless you work there.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love it. I love it. And with that in mind, as we kind of wrap things up, we're getting to the end of our time. If you were to rewind the clock 7 or 8 years, you're at the beginning of starting Magic Pixel. Would you do anything differently?
Yes. And no, I should say, right? Yes, there's always a scope for improving things, right? Always scope to grow things differently, because we all learn from our own experiences, right? So if I had to do one thing different, how would I have effectively told the story that this problem is big enough and you need this solution 4 or 5 years ago? If I was able to crack through that, maybe this company would have been a unicorn by now.
Interesting. Interesting.
Right? If not, the current path that I'm taking is not so bad either.
Yeah.
Right? Where I am leaning on others to educate, like Google and others are coming in and educating people why you need this problem to be solved or addressed. So the growth is not as dramatic as it would have been, but it's still not a bad thing.
But I think it's fascinating that the one thing that you said, which you don't often hear, but yet you've said it already a couple of times during this conversation, is the storytelling, the education of the customer, the highlighting of the problem and the need, which is fascinating because it sounds like you were far enough in front of the demand curve that you had to educate and tell that story first, versus some of your competitors that are now coming into the market. They don't have, they didn't have to do that. Right. So it's interesting. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and a lot of these companies, what they're doing is like, they're just showing the value proposition, saying, hey, we do this same thing, but little better than others. So that's how they end up gaining customers, versus, hey, this is a problem that you should solve now.
Right. And
so
you're like,
that's an important aspect.
And you're like, hey, we've been here since the beginning. Like right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Mahesh, how can our listeners find you? How can they learn more about Magic Pixel, first party data, if they wanted to engage? Give us that.
Yes. So social media is everywhere now, right? You can find me at LinkedIn, Mahesh Reddy, and mahesh@magicpixel.io is my email address. You can reach me, and our website is magicpixel.io.
Okay.
And we have handles in Twitter, we have handles in Facebook and LinkedIn, which is predominantly where we listen. A lot of our folks, business community comes and listens and looks at and consumes our content and knowledge.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your insight into not only first party data, because I think it's still a little foreign to the non-technical, non-marketing type of person, but we're all living it, whether we know it or not.
Right.
And also the understanding of how you came to start and grow your business and some of the challenges that you're facing. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chris. This is really a great opportunity for me to share some of the things that I learned and I am experiencing, and really looking forward to working and talking to you soon again.
Sounds good, Mahesh. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.